Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Thursday, April 16th, 2015. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 Plus. I am Dan Rubin. If it's Thursday, that means we're joined by 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, who's becoming a mainstay on the Bucknuts Morning 5, even when he goes on with other people on Mondays without my clearance. But that's cool. Steve, how are you today?
Doing very well. I told Dave Biddle to ask permission from you, and he just I don't know what his angle was, but I enjoyed being on with Dave, and I enjoyed being on with you, and I enjoyed being on with the Bucknutters, the largest site in the 24/7 Sports Network, the Ohio State fans, bringing the heat every day.
Well stated, and of course, Dave did check it with me. It was my attempt at comedy, but yesterday was, of course, a glorious day for the Buckeyes. Supposed to be the day that we found out Garantano, or I'm not going to learn to pronounce it anymore, was going to commit. We all pretty much knew he was going to go to Tennessee. However, earlier in the day, we were surprised to learn that Tristan Wallace had committed. You kind of take us back through how you saw everything go down and kind of put a bow on Ohio State adding a quarterback in this class.
Well, I'm glad I got to sneak on the Bucknuts Morning 5 on Monday because I got a chance to talk with David Biddle about Tristan Wallace and said don't be surprised if Wallace dropped in the very near future, and he dropped yesterday. And it's a fantastic get for Ohio State, another top 100 player. That's the fifth top 100 commit for Ohio State. As the Buckeyes lead the nation in average per commit, it's the number 4 recruiting class in the country right now. But I'm not sure I would take another class over this one. I mean, Florida State's class is damn good too, and Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is putting together a nice class. But I just really like this Ohio State class and the beginning for it. And still lots of targets out there for Ohio State. And we talk about the same guys over and over here, Luke Farrell, Brendan Ferns, Liam Eichenberg, Justin Lane. And while we talk about those guys, the Ohio State coaching staff is out there still swinging for the fences on guys. And I know we talk a lot about Rashawn Gary, the number 1 player in the country, but he's not the only elite guy that Ohio State has a shot at right now. They're still they're in the top group for Benjamin Victor, the nation's number 3 receiver out of Florida, 24/7 Sports composite number 3 receiver in the country. He'll be up at Top Gun this summer, so I assume, and that always takes place in Dublin, Ohio. So the U.S. Army All-American, I would think, will swing by Ohio State while he's up in the state again, and then Ohio State will look to get him for an official. Nate Craig, the nation's number 1 receiver, he still communicates with Ohio State. He's an Auburn commit. Calls Ohio State his dream school, so hey, Ohio State wants you. Ohio State wants you. It's your dream school. You can make it happen. If it truly is your dream school, he's committed to Auburn right now. So we'll see if that dream school thing is real, because I do think the Buckeyes will ultimately get him to campus. Right now, Nate Craig visiting Florida State and Auburn, it seems, every other day. And so those schools I would obviously put ahead of Ohio State at this point. But hey, you call Ohio State your dream school. Those are strong words. So we'll see if Nate Craig comes up and we'll see what he says after he takes his visit. Excuse me, I was struggling to enunciate on that. But Ohio State is still going after elite talents, top 100 talents, and knowing what we know about Urban Meyer and the recruiting machine that is the Ohio State Buckeye staff, I wouldn't count them out for a couple more big-time blue chippers.
Steve, I realize a majority of the people listening probably understand this, but you mentioned at the beginning of your comment there about the average ranking. Explain to people what you mean by that when you're talking about the crystal ball.
Well, the average ranking is what their grade is. So, for instance, Miami's got the number 2 class in the country, but I think they have like 6 or 7 more commits than everybody. So once the other schools start catching up with the number of commits, Miami will drop because their average star rating per commit is not as high as schools like Florida State, who's now number 1, Ohio State, Ole Miss, schools like that. They're just trailing Miami in total commits. But as Ohio State starts getting into the double-digit commits, they will pass Miami. And so that's, class size plays a part in our class rankings. But for me, I'm a guy that wants my team, I would want my team to just be in the top 5, top 10 every year and address needs. If you're in the top 5, top 10 every year and you're addressing your needs on the roster, you're going to be in it. You're going to be in it if you also have that track record for developing, which Ohio State does, where they certainly have one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the country in Mick Marotti. So they have that going for them. And then they, the coaching staff, they certainly develop guys and get them to be ready to play on Sunday. So Ohio State has that going for them. And then you just want to be in the top 5, top 10 every year and address your needs. And, last year Ohio State went out there and got some blue chip offensive linemen. They went and grabbed a couple quarterbacks. This year they're absolutely loading up at running back, which is a need position for them. So it's just getting your needs and being in that top 10 every year. Being number 1, it's nice and all, but I honestly don't find it relevant. I find it more relevant to be in the top 10 4 to 5 years in a row, because that means your roster's built with the 5 great classes, and you hit your needs every year, so you're balanced.
Yeah, you're basically describing the Urban Meyer era, which is pretty wonderful. Ohio State's already offered, and I'm going to forget its name here, a class of 2018 quarterback out of Jacksonville now. Do you see Ohio State being more aggressive on the recruiting trail with the younger players than others? Are they trying to take advantage while the iron is hot, or is this just the way it is now?
Well, I don't have much insight on that offer just yet. I do think that Ohio State has always been aggressive in offering kids and offering kids gets kids to come up and visit your campus and see you. Kids tend to go visit a school that they have an offer from more than if they don't have an offer. So the more offers you put out to young kids, the more times you're going to get them up to your campus to check it out.
So where do they go from here? The immediate future? How do you see it working out on the recruiting trail? Are we going to go through a commitment lull here, or is this the case where we've always got to be on the lookout?
Well, I'm not sure what Nick Bosa's timetable is. The nation's number 2 strong side defensive end, a 5-star, number 11 player overall, according to 24/7 Sports Composite. He's a guy that could drop at any time, I suppose, but that comes with just more or less saying, what do you think he's waiting for? And then Ben Bredesen's a guy that I think will get to campus sometime in the near future. And while I think that's a Michigan, Notre Dame, Wisconsin battle, Ohio State's in the top 5, and another source told a colleague of mine that they thought Ohio State was a lot higher than people are giving them credit for. So he's a guy that I think will get to campus soon, and he'll decide. I don't know where the commitments are going to – outside of Nick Bosa, there's no one I can point to as I scroll through the Bucknuts target list. Theo Lacusa is another guy that I think if Ohio State pushed for him, they could get him in the boat soon. The nation's number 33 offensive tackle, could also play guard out of Traverse City West. Auburn just offered him. I think Ohio State's the team to beat for him. He's certainly one of the better offensive linemen in the Midwest. So those are guys that I would maybe say keep an eye on, because Austin Mack's not doing anything till June at the camp that he's a big part of that camp with the guys putting it on. They're the guys that have trained him for all 4 years of high school. So I don't see anyone necessarily dropping in the near future, but they're certainly in on a lot of guys, and they're in on some elite guys.
Since you brought it up, let's finish there. Austin Mack, he was the kind of guy that people put on their recruit nuts list a while back. Then there's seems like, I don't know if wavering's the right choice, but he's become a very coveted prospect. When he does announce, do you expect him to be a Buckeye?
I still do. Here's the thing, in such is life that, I don't know if this is a good analogy, but you know how maybe you're about to make a big decision in your life, and you think you know what you're going to do for a long time, and then when it gets to crunch time, then you start doubting it. And I think that's just human nature. And I'm not saying Austin Mack is doubting Ohio State, but I do think that he is thinking more about Notre Dame. And I think that people around him are split on where he should go, Ohio State or Notre Dame. So he's getting different opinions from the adults. And so a big decision's coming up for him. And when that big decision comes up, you start asking yourself, is this the right decision? And then when you do it, you feel great about it. You know what I mean? Whether it's Ohio State or whatever. But, it's almost like, should I buy this house? Do I really want to, or do I buy this car? Or just big decisions. Do I take this job? I think they all kind of fall in the same group. So, and there's a little pressure on Austin because he has set a decision date. And maybe if he didn't have a decision date, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have a decision date, I'm just saying if he wasn't married to that day, he could just do it. You know what I mean? And then that would take away a little bit of the little bit. And I'm not saying he's even feeling pressure. I'm just, you and I talking on the Bucknuts Morning 5. He may not be hearing any of the noise and be saying, I'm a Buckeye on June 7th. I I'm very comfortable with that. So we're just speculating right now. Ohio State is a team to beat, and I think that he is thinking more about Notre Dame, though. And I do think that I know adults are split around him on where he should go. So those three things are facts.
Maybe he's going to Notre Dame because they have better quarterbacks, according to Brian Kelly, but we'll just leave that at that.
So no, I'm glad you brought that up, just because I just find that stuff just funny to talk about, because first of all, Ohio State has the better quarterbacks. But what is BK supposed to say? And some of your readers obviously point at what do you want the guy to say? And then the thing about it all is, like, when athletes and coaches are candid, that's what I love. That's what I absolutely love. Except for when they're candid, people jump down their throats, and that's why we get so much vanilla Belichick crap. Where let's just let these guys sling it out there, man. Let's just be a proponent of all trash talk. That'll make sports better. If someone trash talks, let's just be excited about it, and because that's good television right there.
I agree. Listen, ask Paul Pierce if honesty is the best policy. So, Steve, we enjoy, as always, you making yourself available for us twice this week. The bonus will be reflected in your check.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks for having me on. And I'll be back next Thursday, and I would do it Wednesday. I would do it on Tuesday. I would even do a Sunday morning show, Dan.
You never know.